أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. My fourth year students, today we will discuss tests of significance. We will discuss some tests of significance. Tests of significance are actually, up till now we were discussing descriptive statistics, and from this onward that is the test of significance are actually the inferential statistics. What are the different tests of significance that we will be discussing? This is actually the list of tests of significance that we will be discussing. First one is the relative risk or risk ratio, the odds ratio, z-test, standard error of the mean, standard error of proportions, standard error of difference between two proportions, chi-square test, student t-test, ANOVA, correlation and regression, regression and multiple regression. What type of statistical test do I want to do? किस जगह पे मैंने कौन सा टेस्ट अप्लाई करना है? These are the guidelines. If I am dealing with the continuous data and the data is quantitative, ज़ाहिर है जब continuous है तो quantitative data होगा, qualitative नहीं होगा. Then if I am dealing with the quantitative continuous data, and if I am comparing two groups, for example treatment and control groups, then we apply either standard error or t-test. If we are comparing more than two groups, then we apply ANOVA. This is also known as Fisher test or F-test. If measuring association between two variables, if I want to measure the association between two variables, for example cigarette smoking and lung cancer, but the association between these two variables, then we apply the Pearson R correlation test. If trying to predict an outcome, then we apply the regression or multiple regression test. If we are dealing with qualitative data, this one was the quantitative. Now if we are dealing with qualitative data or qualitative research, that is categorical or nominal qualitative data, we use chi-square test. This test shows us how often something is observed. First one is the relative risk or risk ratio. It's the ratio of the incidence of the disease or death among exposed and incidence among the non-exposed. So the formula for calculating relative risk is the ratio between the incidence of disease or death among the exposed and death among the non-exposed. We had discussed this test in cohort study. Incidence we calculate in longitudinal studies and particularly cohort studies. This is a hypothetical example for calculating the relative risk. As the formula told us that incidence rates among the exposed, that is among the smokers and non-smokers, these are non-exposed people. In this case 70 are the, we are dealing with the exposed and non-exposed people. Yes means exposed, no means non-exposed. So the incidence among the exposed in this case is 70 out of 7,000 got infected. When we calculate, this is coming out to be 10 per 1,000 per 1,000, and the incidence among the non-exposed is 3 per 3,000. When we calculate, this is coming out to be 1 per 1,000. Now to calculate the relative risk of lung cancer in this hypothetical example, the formula is the ratio between these two, that is 10 by 1 and this is coming out to be 10. Now how to interpret this 10? Relative risk of 1 means no association, 2 means 2 times higher incidence or 100% high risk, and 10 means 10 times higher risk. If the relative risk is less than 1, say this is 0.25, then there is a 75% reduction in the incidence rate in the exposed as compared to the unexposed. Now, if we apply this same hypothetical example, this 2 by 2 table to say vaccination, cigarette smoking की जगह हम यहाँ पे लिख लेते हैं vaccination, vaccination against polio, and development of polio disease and no development of polio disease. Then if we calculate the relative risk for this exposure, now this exposure is actually protective. The data will not be like this one. Maybe this yes comes over here and the no comes up in this column. Then if we calculate the same data, this relative risk will come out to be 1 divided by 10. This is coming out to be 0.1. 0.1 means there is 90% protection, 90% reduction in the incidence rates of polio. So if the relative risk is less than 1, this means there is protection in the incidence among the exposed. Next test of significance is the odds ratio. We have done this odds ratio or cross product ratio in case control studies. It's a measure of the strength of association. This is actually the measure of strength of association between the risk factor and the outcome. And the odds ratio is basically based on 3 assumptions, and these are actually assumptions for case control studies. Disease must be rare, cases must represent cases, and controls must represent controls, or those without the disease. When we calculate the cross product ratio, cross product means AD divided by BC. Now AD divided by BC, when we calculate, this is coming out to 8.1. Now what is the interpretation of odds ratio of 8.1 in this example of a case control study? The interpretation is that smokers are having risk of lung cancer 8.1 times than the non-smokers, and this is a key parameter in the analysis of case control studies. Next is z-test. When you can run a z-test? When should we apply a z-test? When the sample size is less than 30, then we apply the z-test. Otherwise, if the sample size is more than 30, then we use t-test. If your data should be normally distributed, if the sample size is less than 30, if the data is normally distributed and the sample is randomly selected, and sample size should be equal in both the populations. How to run a z-test? There are 5 steps for conducting applying a z-test. First of all, you state the pair of hypotheses, that is the null hypothesis and alternate. Then choose an alpha level. What is alpha level? Alpha level is actually the area beyond the area of non-rejection, or sometimes we say the area of acceptance. In this case, for 95% confidence, we already know that this area is this one. This area is 95%. So the rest, this is our area of for 95% confidence interval, this is our area of non-rejection or acceptance of the null hypothesis, and beyond this one, whatever the area is the remaining, that is this one, this is the area of rejection of the null hypothesis. Now we state the pair of hypotheses alternating the null, and then choose the alpha area. Alpha area over here, our alpha area is, if this is one tail hypothesis, is 0.05, and if it's two tail hypothesis, then we divide this 0.05 by 2, and this is coming out to be 0.025 on both sides in two tail hypothesis. What is one tail and what are two tail hypotheses, you must know by now. Then we calculate the z-test statistics. We will see in the next slides. Then find the critical value of z in the z table and compare the test statistics to the critical z value and decide if you should support or reject the null hypothesis. Next slide. This is how we calculate z. Z is actually the ratio between the median deviation and standard deviation. That is, z is equal to x minus x bar by standard deviation. Now, what is the alpha area for 95% confidence, 90% confidence level? The alpha area in one tail hypothesis is 10% or 0.1, and in two tail hypothesis it is 5% or 0.05 on both sides. For 95% confidence, the alpha area is 5% or 0.05, and for two tail hypothesis is 2.25 or 0.025 on both sides. For 98 it is 2 and 1, and for 99 it is 1 and 0.5 for one tail hypothesis. Sorry, for one tail hypothesis 1% or 0.01, and for two tail hypothesis it is 5%, 0.5% on each side or 0.05 is the alpha area. And this is the exact area that we know that for 95% confidence interval, two standard errors is not exactly two standard two. It is the exact figure is 1.96, and for 98% it is 2.326. For 99% confidence interval, the area that lies between in the acceptance area or the non-rejection area is 2.76. And next test is the standard error of the mean. We had already discussed this one. We know that plus minus 2 standard error of the mean for 95% confidence interval is the level of significance. And difference less than plus minus 2 standard error is non-significant, because in this case the p-value is more than 0.05, and we know by now that the p-value, the cutoff p-value is for acceptance or rejection of a null hypothesis for 95% confidence is 0.05. So if the p-value is more than 0.05, then we may not reject the null, and if the difference is more than plus minus 2 standard errors on each side, then the p-value is less than 0.05, and we can easily reject the null hypothesis. How do we reject null and accept or not reject the null? We will see in the coming slides. Next is the same standard error of the mean. We had already discussed. This is actually standard of the mean is actually the relationship of standard deviation to sample size. This is an example. Now, taking an example, we obtained a random sample of 100 individuals with mean HB of 12 grams and standard deviation of 2. What would be the conclusion if the population mean is 7? This is a sample where we had taken 100 individuals and their mean HB is this one. If we take a population or a sample and their mean HB is 7, whether this population is the same as that population or otherwise. This means that whether it is the same population, this means that the null is correct. Null hypothesis is correct, and if it is otherwise, it is from another population, this means that alternate hypothesis is correct. Now we know that mean of a population for that confidence interval is whatever the confidence interval is. In this case, it is the confidence interval is 95%. The mean of the population is equal to the mean of the sample plus minus 2 standard errors, and we know that standard error is equal to standard deviation by sample size. Now x bar plus minus 2 standard errors are 2 standard deviation by sample size. By placing the values, this is the sample size 100, 12 is the mean of the population, 2 is the standard deviation, data already given. When we place this data in this equation and we calculate, this is coming out to be 0.4. Now for this confidence interval, the mean of the population would be between 11.6 and 12.4. We can say with 95% confidence that the population mean will be between 11.6 and 12.4. Now the population mean, that is 7 grams, this one. What would be the conclusion if the population mean is 7? If the population mean is 7, then this is the 7 is outside the confidence limits of the sample. Clear? Our critical value is critical values are 2, 11.6 and 12.7, and this examined value is 7. Now we compare this 7. Now 7 is outside 11. It is quite less than 11.6. Clear? Now in this case, our confidence area is probably this one 11.6, 11.6, this is 10 and this is 12. The area may be somewhere from here to 12.4, 12 से थोड़ा सा आगे. Now and this is our null acceptance area or null non-rejection area. If a value falls over here, that is between 11.6 and 12.4, we may not be able to reject the null hypothesis. But in this case, 7 is outside the rejection acceptance area or non-rejection area. 7 is in the somewhere over here, somewhere over here. Now we can reject the null hypothesis, and conclusion is The sample was not from the same from the population whose mean was 7 grams. Difference is statistically significant and null is rejected. So we use standard error for continuous data. Next test is standard error of proportion. This is used for discrete data. Suppose in 10,000 population, 5,200 are workers. We take a random sample of 100, which shows 0.40 or 40% to be workers. A question is, what range of workers will be in sample size of 100 with 95% confidence interval, and what is the conclusion? Now the data is discrete, like white are black, dead are alive, and workers are non-workers. So we use which test? Standard error for proportions. One outcome is P, that is proportion of workers, and the other one is non-workers. Now in this population, 5,200 out of 10,000 are workers. When we calculate and express as percentage, 52% of this population are workers, and the rest we can easily calculate. Q is equal to 1 minus P. 1 is the total population, P is the proportion of workers. Now if we subtract the workers, the rest are the non-workers, that is 48% are non-workers. For calculating proportion, standard error of proportion, when we calculate mean of a population, we add up all the values of x values, x1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to xn jitne bhi hain, and then divide these by the sample size, sorry, the number of all the values. While for calculating standard error of proportion, the formula is we multiply this standard error of proportion is the square root of the product of proportions divided by the sample size. So this is P into Q is the product of proportions, and the this is square root by sample size. Now formula for standard proportion is that one. Now putting the values, P in this case is 52, Q is 48. So 52 into 48 divided by the sample size, which is 100. When we calculate, this is coming out to be 5. Now confidence interval for population proportion is equal to proportion, that is sample proportion, plus minus 2 standard errors. Standard error in this case is 5. Now if we subtract and add and subtract this 10 to if we subtract this 2 standard errors to this 52, once we subtract 10, once we add, this 52 will minus 10 will become 42, and this one 62. We say with 95% confidence that the population of working people lie between 42 and 62. For 95% confidence, our proportion of working people lie between these two figures. Now the sample population is 40. Now whether this 40 is, if we draw this these figures over here, (52) is, say over here at 0, this is our 52, and our lower limit, that is for 2 standard errors, minus 1.96, over here lies the 42, and at plus 1.96 lies the 62. Now, whether this 40 is, the question was whether the 40% lies between these two, this in confidence interval or otherwise. 40 lies somewhere here, and this is outside our limits. This is our acceptance, null acceptance area, this one, and this 40 lies in the rejection area. So the sample population is 40. This is outside the confidence limits. And so the sample is some other population, sample is from some other population and not from the population whose working force is 52%. So the difference is significant. We reject the null hypothesis. Next is standard error of difference between two proportions. This is used to compare proportions between two groups instead of means. In quantitative research, we compare two means, while in qualitative research, we compare two proportions. Now, if we want to compare two proportions, we will use standard error of difference between two proportions. An example. As medical director, we meet two dealers, two pharmaceutical companies who prepare vaccine A and B for the prevention of measles. Both claim that their vaccines have excellent results. Vaccines are given to a large number of subjects. 22 out of 90 in vaccinated with A and exposed to the infection developed the disease, while 14 out of 86 with B did the same. Which one is better? 22 out of 90 are getting infection, and in this case 14 out of 86 are getting the infection. Apparently B is better than A. Over here, in case of B, the attack rate is less than the attack rate in A. To compare two groups instead of two means. Example, to compare vaccine A and B. Now, null hypothesis say that there is no difference between the two vaccines. A is equal to B. While alternate hypothesis say that A and B, this one, over here in case of A, attack rate is 24, that is 22 of 90 are getting infection. The attack rate is 24.4%, and in this case it is 16.2%. Now the alternate hypothesis say apparently B is better than A. So apparently vaccine B is superior to A. We want to see whether this difference is due to chance alone or statistically significant, and this is the beauty of statistics, that it shows us whether this difference, this one, how much is the observed difference? 24.4 minus 16.2 is the observed difference between the two is 8.2. Now, we calculate the probability of infection for vaccine A, that is proportion of infection in vaccine A, which is the number of infection by the total exposed. This is 24% already shown in the previous slide. 24% or is the attack rate or the proportion of infection, and the non-infected are this Q1 is P1 is the proportion of those who got infected, and Q1 is the rest of the population, that is 1 minus P1. 1 is the total population, that is 100%, minus this, so this 1 means 100, so 100 minus 24.4 is equal to 75.6. Now the proportion of infected persons is 24, while that of the non-infected is 75. In case of B, the proportion of infected is 16.2, while those of non-infected is 83. Now the standard error of difference between two proportions formula is, this is standard error of proportion. We have calculated the standard error for one sample in the previous slides, that is P1 multiplied by P multiplied by Q divided by the sample size. Over here there are two samples for vaccine A and vaccine B. This is for vaccine A, P1 Q1 by N1, that is sample of first sample, and this is second sample. We calculate putting the values. P is 24.4 over here, 75.6 is the Q1, 90 was the sample size, and similarly over here we calculate all these. Now this is coming out to be 6. So the standard error of difference between two proportions is 6, and the observed difference is 8.2. The confidence interval, that will be confidence interval 6 is one standard error, and we are talking about two standard errors, 6 multiplied by 2, so this will be 12. Now in order to reject the null hypothesis, our area lies between the critical value is 12. This is the critical value over here, and over here 12, while this 8.2 is less than the 12, maybe somewhere over here 8.2, which is less than the 12. So we cannot reject the null hypothesis, and the null hypothesis say that there is no difference between A and B, and this is beauty of statistics that tells us, or the test of significance that tells us whether we can reject. Apparently we can say that this 16%, this one attack rate is quite less than the 8.2 times less than the vaccine B or vaccine A. Vaccine B is less than attack rate in vaccine B is less than attack rate in vaccine A by 8.2 times. But when we calculate apply the standard error of difference between two proportions, then we cannot reject the null hypothesis, and the conclusion is the difference in attack rate of two vaccines is not due to the true difference between the two vaccines, but due to chance alone. This is known as chance alone. If it is statistically significant, we say that this is statistically significant, but if not statistically significant difference is there, then we say that this is actually due to chance. We would not reject the null and will say the difference is statistically not significant. We suppose that the infection is due to other factors, and these other factors are known as chance alone or chance, which may be faulty technique, storage, immunity status of the children, maybe some other factors. That's all about these some tests of significance, which is the inferential statistics. there are 3 assignments for you people. Number 1 is the mean cholesterol level of 200 individuals in a population is 180. Standard deviation is 20. Calculate standard error and confidence interval for mean of the population and then interpret the results. Assignment number 2. The mean blood sugar of a diabetic population is 259 with a standard deviation of 50. Calculate the standard error and confidence interval for the population mean and interpret the results. Assignment number 3. As medical director, you meet 2 dealers who prepare vaccine A and B for the prevention of measles. Both claim that their vaccines have excellent results. Vaccines were given to a large number of subjects. 25 out of 120 in vaccinated with A and exposed to infection developed the disease, while 24 out of 116 with B did the same. Calculate the standard error of proportions for the vaccines and interpret the results. That's all regarding this topic. Next time we will discuss, inshallah, some more tests of significance. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz. Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. My 4th year students, we were discussing test of significance last time, part 1 of the test of significance. Today is part 2 of test of significance. This is a list of the tests of significance that we were discussing, and we discussed till 6th number, that is the standard error of difference between 2 proportions. And today we will discuss the 7th and 8th, chi-square test and student t-test. These are the guidelines which test is being used at what point of time. If we are dealing with continuous data, the quantitative data, which may be continuous, and if we are comparing 2 groups, for example treatment and control group, then we either use t-test or standard error of the mean. If we are comparing more than 2 groups, then NO or F test. If we are measuring association between 2 variables, then Pearson R test. And if trying to predict an outcome, then regression or multiple regression. And when we are dealing with qualitative data, this one is the quantitative data, and if we are dealing with qualitative data, which may be which is categorical or nominal or qualitative research, then we use the chi-square test. Chi-square test is basically the this calculates chi-square test and t-test. These 2 tests calculate how large the difference is. Chi-square calculate the how large the difference is in qualitative research, and t-test calculate this thing in quantitative research. For qualitative data, where proportions are in qualitative research, we calculate proportions and then compare with the help of a chi-square. While when we compare to means, this means that we are dealing with quantitative data. Then we use the student t-test, the chi-square test. There are 5 steps for application of chi-square. First is the test the null hypothesis. Second step is apply the chi-square test. Third is finding the degree of freedom. Step number 4 is probability table, and 5th is the inference or the outcome. Now the explanation of the chi-square test with the help of an example. Suppose we have 2 vaccines A and B for prevention of measles. We give A vaccine to 100 children and B vaccine to another 100 children, and vaccine A 20 later develop the disease, that is the measles disease, when they are exposed. And in this case, that is in case of vaccine B, out of 115 later develop the disease. Now apparently B is better than A, because in this case attack rate is 20% and in this case it's 5%. Now to state the two types of hypothesis, null hypothesis say A and B are equal. There is no difference between A and B. There is no difference between A and B vaccines are similar. While alternate hypothesis say B is better than A, and this is our claim. This null hypothesis, alternate hypothesis is our claim. Now, test significance, this chi-square test test actually the significance of difference between two proportions, these two proportions 20 and 15, whether the difference is actually significant or otherwise. It can be used when more than two groups are, this chi-square test can be used if we are comparing two groups or more than two groups. The chi-square and the t-test are quantitative test because it calculates the exact difference. And this is the same data presented in the tabular form. This is vaccine A given to 100 children, this one, and out of 100, 20 develop the disease. In this case 15 develop the disease. Is the number of cases is the same, number of sample is the same in both the cases, 100 over here and 100 here. In this case, in case of vaccine A, attack rate is 20 and in B attack rate is 15. Apparently vaccine B is better. If null hypothesis is true, the proportion of attacked, if null is true, this means that the attack rate will be the same in both the cases. In case of vaccine A and B, the attack rate will be the same. Now, if null is true, the attack rate must be the same. Thus, the proportion of attacked, this one, this 35, the total attacked are 35 out of 200. Now, the proportion of attacked is 35 out of 200. When expressed as percentage, this is coming out to be 17.5%. And the non-attacked proportion, the non-attacked are these 165 for the non-attacked, in total are 200. Now 165 out of 200 are non-attacked, and when we calculate and express this as percentage, this is 82.5. If null is true, vaccine, in case of vaccine A, attack rate is 17.5, and this means that the attack rate and the non-attack rate are both the same. In this case 17.5, in this case of B vaccine 17.5, and similarly the non-attack rate in both the vaccines is the same. But we find the difference. We had seen the difference. This is the table number 1 that we had discussed earlier in the previous slides. We find the difference. Now we will find whether this difference is real or due to chance. If real, how much is the significance level, and if otherwise, so this means this is in statistical language we say this is by chance or chance alone. Now this is the same table explained earlier. This is table number 2 explained. Now we will see that for calculating chi-square value, formula for calculating chi-square value is we sum up the squares of the difference between observed and expected, and then divide this by the expected. So the chi-square value is actually the ratio between the sum of the squares of the observed minus the expected values and the expected values. This is the definition of a chi-square for degree freedom of 1, df1. Now in case of a cell A, this one, cell A and cell A, this one, the observed value over here is 20, the expected value is 17. Now the difference is 2.5. We take the square, which is 6.25. In cell B, this is cell B, the observed value is 80, this is 80, the expected value is 82.5. This is coming out to be minus 2.5. In cell C, this is cell C, 15 is the observed value and expected value in this case is 17.5, again coming out to be minus 2.5, and 85 is this one, cell D, and this one, cell D over here. This is the observed, these are the observed values and these are the expected values. Now the 85 minus 82.5, this is coming out to be 2.5. We take squares of all these figures. These are the squares. Now chi-square is the difference between the observed, the square of the observed, which is 6.25 in all these cases, 6.25, 6.2, 6.25, this one, divided by the expected. In this case, expected is 17.5, cell A. In cell B, expected are 82.5, this one, this cell A 17.5, and this is cell B 82.5. Cell C, observed, this square of the difference of the observed and expected divided by the expected, 17.5, and over here when we calculate, these are coming to be in cell A 0.33, 0.07, 0.33 and 0.07. We add all these and this is coming out to be 0.8. Now what do we mean by what is the inference? The calculated value of chi-square is 0.8. What does this explains? The chi-square value is 0.8. Degree of freedom, as we know, this is the 2 by 2 table, this one. For 2 by 2 table, the rows minus 1 into columns minus 1 is equal to 2 minus 1 into 2 minus 1, 1. So the degree of freedom for 2 by 2 table is 1. Now what is the cutoff value for decision that this 0.08 is small or large, and how much large? We will go to chi-square values in the table, which is in the next slide. How to read this? This is chi-square table, chi-square probabilities, freely available on internet. You can download. How to read this table? First, we will go to the tail probability. Our hypothesis is that vaccine B is better than A. This means that this is a one-tail hypothesis. For one-tail hypothesis, one thing is quite clear, that we always use 95% confidence. For 95% confidence, the p-value is, or the probability is 0.05. Now we will go to, for 95% confidence, we will go to this 0.05. Now the degree of freedom is 1, and the tail probability of a chi-square value, this is known as the critical value. This is 3.84. With some more focus in the next slide, this one, this is the degree of freedom. This is 0.05 is the p-value. and the critical value in this table, in the chi-square table, is 3.84, and our test statistics are, these are our test statistics. 0.8 is our test statistic, and this 3.84 is the critical value. Now, in order to reject or not to reject or accept the null hypothesis, our test statistics must cross this critical value. If we can cross this critical value, we are out of the two standard errors, and we can reject the null. If it is otherwise, this 0.08 is quite less than 3.84, so we cannot cross this limit. We compare the chi-square value of 0.8 with 3.84, which is too small to be called significant. For significance level, we must cross this. These are, I am repeating, this is our test statistics, and this is the critical value. 3.84 is the critical value. So we must cross this critical value, so that we can our statistics are significant, and we can reject the null hypothesis. In this case, we cannot reject the null, and vaccine A and B are equal. These are equally effective, and the difference is due to Chance-Elon. What is meant by Chance-Elon, I have explained in the previous presentation. This is another example. Now we will see whether this difference is, again, there are two vaccines, vaccine A and B. For these are mumps vaccines. We are giving vaccine A to 100 children and B to 300. In this case, 20 out of 100 are attacked, so the attack rate is 20%. In this case, 30 out of 300 are attacked. When we calculate, the attack rate is 10%. Again, this is a 2 by 2 table, and degree of freedom is 1. Now, this is the same table I explained. If null is true, the attack rate must be the same. If null is true, attack rate must be the same. For vaccine A, if null is true, distribution of observed and expected attack rate. This is the observed. We observed that 20% are attacked. Now this is the observed, 20 is observed, while expected is 50 out of 400. These 50 out of the 400 are attacked. When we calculate and express as percentage, this is coming out to be 12.5. And the non-attacked in vaccine A are 80 out of 100. These are the observed, while the expected is the if 12.5% are attacked, this means that the rest percentage, that is 87.5. And if we want to calculate 350, this 350 out of 400 are non-attacked. When we calculate and express as percentage, this is coming out to be 87.5. For vaccine B, the observed is 30 in case of attacked, and the expected are 12.5% are, we have seen over here that 12.5% are 12.5% of 300. 12.5% of 300 are attacked. When we calculate, this is coming out to be 37.5. And over here, the in case of vaccine B, the observed are 270, while the expected are 87.5% are non-attacked. 87.5% of this 300 are not attacked. So this when we calculate, this is coming out to be 262.5. This is the same table. Over here we are calculating chi-square value. As I explained this that the chi-square value is equal to the summation of the difference, the square of the difference between observed and expected by the divided by the expected. In other words, the chi-square is the ratio between the summation of the square of the difference between observed and expected and the expected. Now, for cell A, observed is 20, expected is 12.5. 20 minus 12.5, 7.5. For cell B, this is cell B, observed is 80, expected is 87.5, 87.5 minus 87.5. This is coming out to be minus 7.5. In this case, for cell C, 30 is observed, this one, while 37.5 is the expected. We calculate minus 7.5 for cell D. Observed is 80 and expected are this one. Observed is 270 and expected are 262.5. The difference is 7.5. We take squares of all these and divided by the expected. In this case 12.5, 57.5, 37.5 and 262.5. This is coming out to be 4.5, 0.64, 1.5 and 0.2. We add all these values. This is coming out to be 6.82. Now, for this vaccine, our test statistic is 6.85. How to interpret this 6.85? This is our test statistics. Again, we will go to the chi-square values. Chi-square values, chi table, 0.5 and degree of freedom the same, 3.84. This one, degree of freedom of 1 for 95% confidence or P 0.5. Now the critical value is 3.84 or this one, more focused. Now the critical value is 3.84 while the test statistics are 6.85. Whether this 6.85 as the critical value is 3.84 and the test statistics are 6.85. Now, how do you decide whether we can reject the null hypothesis or we cannot reject the null hypothesis? Coming to this normal distribution, we know that this one, this bluish area is this blue area is area for accepting the null. This is the critical value place, similarly on this side, and this yellow area is area of rejection. Now, this value of critical value is over here, this one, 3.84, this one. Now this 3.84 is the critical value, while the test statistics falls beyond this critical value, which is 6.85, maybe somewhere here, 6.85. मेरी राइटिंग बड़ी रंगीन है, इसके साथ गुजारा करें. So this 6.85 is far away on the right side of the critical value, and as the critical value 3.84 is less than the calculated value, that is 6.85 is far away from the critical value, and so the null is rejected. We reject the null hypothesis. In the previous example, we were not able to reject the null hypothesis because our test statistics were falling somewhere here, which was 0.8 as compared to 3.84, while in this case the test statistics are 6.85 as compared to 3.84. This suggests that there is significant difference in the efficacy of vaccine A and B.